All right, let's be honest for a sec. Scrolling through those dreamy travel blogs, picturing yourself on some exotic beach, way more fun than like staring at spreadsheets, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's easy to get lost in those Instagram perfect lives.
Totally. But what if I told you ditching the cubicle, becoming one of those nomads, it doesn't have to be a fantasy?
See, now you've got my attention. But that's the thing, isn't it? Everyone thinks you need to be, like, loaded to travel long term.
Exactly. That's where today's deep dive gets interesting. We're talking to a guy who's been traveling the world for over 16 years to 65 countries.
Wow, 16 years. He must have some stories. Okay, so what's the secret? How's he swinging that?
He's basically cracked the code on affordable long-term travel, and he's sharing all his wisdom with us. We're diving deep into excerpts from Dan of the Vagabond Awake and his book, get this, How I Fired My Boss and Traveled for 16 Years.
How I Fired My Boss. Okay, that title alone speaks to a lot of fantasies out there. But it brings up a good point. This isn't about, like, winning the lottery and then traveling. It's more about a mindset shift, right?
You hit it right on the head. Dan's story just blows that whole you need to be rich to travel thing out of the water.
Yeah.
It's about smart planning, making savvy choices, and being brave enough to break free from the usual way of doing things.
It's about really prioritizing experiences and designing your life around that, which honestly, that's powerful stuff whether you're traveling or not.
Okay, so we're ready to swap those spreadsheets for mountain views.
Yeah.
But let's be real, how do we actually afford to make this whole travel thing happen?
That's where Dan's approach is so refreshing, you know? He's got these little aha moments that can totally change how you think about travel, especially when it comes to saving money.
And I've got to say, one of his biggest secrets is kind of surprising. It's all about slowing down and embracing regional travel.
It makes sense when you think about it. Instead of those crazy expensive round-trip flights across the world, picture yourself landing in, say, Lisbon. You spend a few weeks soaking up the Portuguese vibe, then hop on a train to Spain, explore the countryside there.
You're not just saving on airfare, you're experiencing the journey, right?
Exactly. Slow travel, deeper immersion, it often ends up being cheaper than those rush trips anyway. And that's where Dan's Skyscanner skills come in. He breaks down how to use all those cool features like searching with flexible dates and checking out different airports to find those hidden gem flights that can save you a ton.
It's true. We get so stuck on specific dates and places that we forget to, like, play around with the options a bit.
For sure. And speaking of hidden gems, Dan tells this great story in the book about a choice he had to make. A $375 flight or a $15 bus ride through the Andes Mountains.
Wait, hold up. A $15 bus ride through the Andes. Okay, now you're just speaking my language.
He said the bus was incredible. Breathtaking views, a chance to actually connect with locals, stuff you wouldn't get from 30,000 feet up. It just shows how sometimes choosing the experience over the convenience is not only more enriching, but it saves you money too.
Talk about a win-win. So we're snagging those regional travel deals, but what about the other biggie, accommodation?
Don't worry, Dan's got us covered there too. He's all about that minimalist packing life.
You mean like staying in hostels and guest houses instead of fancy hotels?
Exactly. When you've only got one checked bag and a carry-on, which is how Dan rolls, you're not stuck lugging around a ton of stuff, so you're free to choose those places that prioritize experience and budget over, luxury.
Plus, think about all those baggage fees you're dodging. But seriously, one checked bag. What's the secret to fitting your whole life into that?
Dan's a master of multi-purpose items and those clever packing hacks, like rolling your clothes instead of folding. He even shares his exact packing list in the book, which is seriously impressive talk about prioritizing.
He must be a magician with those packing cubes or something. But honestly, the idea of traveling for months with the same stuff, it really makes you think twice about what you actually need.
It does. It's a powerful idea that goes way beyond travel. Embracing minimalism, it's like freeing yourself from all that stuff. You make space for what matters, like experiences, connections, personal growth.
All right, so we're nailing the packing list. We're finding killer travel deals. We're all about that minimalist life. But what about the practical stuff? Staying connected, managing money, staying safe in all these new places, especially if you're going solo. That can feel a little daunting.
Totally get it. Those are all things you've got to think about, for sure. But Dan breaks it down in a way that makes it feel totally manageable. Like he's got this super simple trick for keeping your phone number, even when you're using local SIM cards for data.
Oh, tell me more about that. I'm always trying to avoid those insane roaming charges.
Right, it's a lifesaver. And he's got solutions for everything, even getting mail, which always seemed impossible to me when you're bouncing around.
Seriously, how do you even do that?
Well, Dan lays out a bunch of different methods so you can get mail no matter where you are. No more missed bills or postcards. Speaking of which, what about safety? I mean, online security, carrying cash, all that.
Yeah, that's a big one, especially in unfamiliar places.
Definitely. Dan's a huge fan of those shop safe features on credit cards. You know, the ones that give you a temporary number for online shopping, adds that extra layer of security.
Smart.
Plus, he gives really practical advice on carrying cash safely, being smart about it, not freaking out.
Exactly. I like how he doesn't sugarcoat the risks, but he just gives you the tools to deal with it. Like he talks about avoiding scams, blending in, what to do if you find yourself in a dicey situation.
And he's big on trusting your gut, which we all have, but it's easy to ignore sometimes.
Totally. Okay, so on to the big question, the one we're all thinking about. How do you actually make money while traveling long term? That's the key to making it last, right?
Absolutely. And this is where Dan's story gets even more interesting. He's super open about what worked for him and what didn't. Like, he started with remote work, tried out affiliate marketing, and eventually found his groove with passive income.
For those of us who don't speak fluent digital nomad, what exactly is passive income?
So it's basically creating something once like an online course, an ebook, even investments that'll bring in money without you having to like actively work on it all the time.
So you're out there exploring the world, and the money's just kind of flowing in.
Exactly. It gives you the freedom to travel long term without being chained to a desk.
That's the dream. And Dan actually walks the walk. He's got his Retire Overseas course. He shares his passive income strategy, so he's not just talking about it.
And here's what I love. He's all about combining short-term gigs, like the stuff you see in the gig economy, to fund your travels while you're building up that passive income on the side.
Such a smart approach. Okay, so we've covered a ton today, but honestly, we've just scratched the surface of what Dan's got to offer. It's been super inspiring, and it just goes to show with a little planning, a willingness to think outside the box, and a whole lot of determination, long-term travel, totally doable.
Absolutely. And the best part is, it's not one size fits all. Take Dan's story, his tips, and use them as a springboard to create your own version of this.
Couldn't have said it better myself. If you're ready to ditch the cubicle and chase those travel dreams, Dan's book is your new best friend. We'll drop a link in the show notes. Until next time, happy travels, everyone.